Hello YouTube. I'd like to do a video where I'm looking back at some of the bad games on the Amiga. It's very easy to do a top 10 on the good stuff, but I'd like to look at some of the bad stuff. And these are some of the ones that I bought. So this is the first game on my list. It's called Backlash. It's by NovaGen in 1988. It is nothing more than a very basic battle zone type game that Atari released in many years ago. It is a very basic shooter. You shoot the flying saucers that spin around. You can move around the parallax landscape, shooting things on a grey background with grey pyramids. It's awful. It really is dreadful. The only good thing about this was that it was free and included in my Amiga in 1988. February 88, I think it was. I can't remember now. Yeah, so it was a freebie with my game pack, and that's the only saving grace. It is dreadful. So next on my hit list is Pteropods, and this is by the superstars of the day, Psygnosis, who are now owned by Sony. But anyway, Pteropods. Pteropods was released in 1987. I went to my local town to the game shop, and this was on sale. I think it's $9.99, reduced from whatever it was. It was billed as an action strategy game, and I do like strategy games. Had a wonderful box with beautiful box art of a bipedal. Was it tripedal? A tripod, not sure. But it had this robot-y, monster-y thing on the front cover, and it looked wonderful. It was very impressive. The instructions or the brief description looked really good. But all I can say for sure is it was absolutely dreadful. I hated it. I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the controls. I didn't like the graphics. I didn't like anything about it. It was a stinker. And what annoyed me even more was after I bought it, I saw a review in one of the magazines of the day, and they praised it. Gave it a reasonable score. It got sort of 7 out of 10 or whatever it was. Had a few issues, but it's a good solid gameplay. I thought it was crap. I didn't like it. I thought it was awful. I've played it again recently, and I still think it's awful. So that is my review of Pteropods. Garbage. Here we have another arcade game. Well, the arcade game. This is Ultram. It was released in 1988 by Probe, or was it US Gold? But anyway, it was a Sega game from the arcades. It was massive in the arcades. Anyone who visited the arcades would have seen Outrun. It was everywhere in the 80s, from the stand-up cabinets to the sit-down cabinets. So it was with reasonable excitement, although not total excitement, it's fair to say. I was well aware of arcade conversions on the C64 and the ZX Spectrum at this time. Generally, they were a disappointment. So when Outrun came along, I did think it'd be pretty good on the Amiga, and well, it wasn't. It was awful. It was slow. It just didn't play very quickly. The frame rate was just too low. The poor old 500 just couldn't do it, and it's a shame really, because I expected good things from Outrun, but unfortunately, it's another stinking turd. Unfortunately. Here we have a little beauty. Quite how this got released, quite how I ended up with it, I really don't know. But I do remember it came in a single, almost CD-like jewel case with a 3.5-inch floppy disk inside it. I seem to remember it being yellow with a photo of a 737, 747, who the hell knows the difference. And I was reasonably excited. It did look good. Fly, you know, a passenger jet. What could be any better? On loading it up, you got a reasonable budget kind of looking intro screen. But I thought, yeah, it should be okay. What a stinking pile of poo this game really is. Released by Anko in 1987. I didn't get this in my Amiga pack, but I got it pretty soon after. I think I borrowed it, or I was lent it, or something. We used to swap games at work, and I'm not sure where I got this from, but oh my god, it was dreadful. It was the first time I'd seen a really, really bad game on the Amiga. It was, I can't describe how poor it is. It is, please go and try this for yourselves. Get one for your Amiga, get the ADF, stick it on there and just try it. It is shite. But, you know, that's Anko for you. You should know better by now. Well, here we have another spectacular game. The ideal game for showing off my new, as it was then, CD32 console. Now this would have been 1994, before the collapse of Commodore. As far as I knew, the CD32 was the beginning of a range of consoles from Commodore. Commodore could do no wrong in my eyes. How little I knew. Now this game had been advertised on TV. It had been on game shows. It was featured heavily in Amiga magazines. It was seemingly everywhere where a teenager or a young man would be looking, within reason. But it was spectacularly bad. The introduction videos were pretty impressive. 3D rendered, nice shading, nice colours, looked great. I seem to remember a friend of mine saying, "Rise of the Robots on the CD32, it's brilliant. When you fight, you can actually see the bolts fall off the robots. That is how realistic it is." Great, I thought. That's the game for me. So this is another one I bought, and it's absolutely hideous. It's perhaps, I can't really describe it. This is another game that you should download and play. I know it was available for the Mega Drive and SNES and PC and everything else that was out at the time, but I'm just staggered how bad this game is. It cost millions as well to produce. They were running late on the development. It was advertised with talk of books, magazines, probably a film too. No doubt starring what's his name, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah, it's another stinking pile of poo. And one of the reasons why I stopped buying brand new games until I could try them. It was awful. These were the days before the internet, of course, so all we had was static photos in magazines. Very, very poor. So that's it. It's just a quick look. I wanted to do a longer list, but I can't find a reliable list of bad games, although I haven't really looked very well. But this is just a few that I remember back in the day. If you have any more comments or any games that you remember, please put them on the list, and I'll see if I can remember playing them. I did play a lot of Amiga stuff, but many drinks and late nights have been consumed since then, and I've forgotten about most of them. So this is me signing off, and good night.